Hi, my name is Walt Malzahn. I'm the owner of Big Nasties. I want to thank you for stopping by our channel today and watching our first episode of the Big Nasty Show. The goal of our show is to shine a positive light on not only the people, but the businesses that are making a positive impact not only on our fisheries, but for you, the angler, as well. Hope you enjoy the show. Good morning. This is Walt Malzahn with Big Nasties, and I want to welcome you to the first episode of the Big Nasty Show. We are here today at Rancho Santa Margarita Lake in the beautiful city of Rancho Santa Margarita. Our first guest is Brian Nguyen, otherwise known as the Cigar Afishinado. Brian, welcome.
Thanks, Walt.
Thank you for
Appreciate
being
you
here
having me
today.
here.
We want to make our guests feel welcome and let them know how much we appreciate them being here. So our first sponsor is the Sammy Lamb Bakery here in the Orange County and LA markets. Their owner, Karen, is presenting you with a box of cake bites. That's the item that's gotten her known here in the bakery world. And
Awesome.
just a gratitude we are to have you here on our first episode, Brian.
Thank you very much. I'm sure my wife will enjoy this. Thank you.
Fantastic. So Brian has been in the industry for a number of years, and we want to go ahead and give a little background on Brian. So you've told me that you consider yourself a child of the 80s.
I am.
Born and raised in Hollywood, California.
Yep. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, child of the 80s. I like to say that's when music was at its best. But that's an era that I know. And I grew up in Hollywood. Very fortunate to have neighbors that looked out for us, and that's how we got our start. As far as my brother and I, Jerry and I, in our fishing, we had neighbors taking us to and from. We were very lucky, as I said, and I think growing up, I can't recall any of the other kids in the neighborhood or anybody we went to school with that loved fishing, and so we were just kind of the odd man out, if you will. And yeah, that's where the passion grew. He and I, we fished together. You know, we didn't think that it would ever slow down, but things happen in life,
Absolutely.
families, and so on and so forth. But we're getting back in the swing of things. We'll be okay.
You had told me that when you were growing up, you had two passions. Tell me more about that.
I loved cooking, and I loved the ocean. Cooking was something that I did with my grandmother. Grandmother was mom to us, and I would just stay in the kitchen with her whenever you know, getting home from school or anything like that, and it made for great conversation too. But I loved doing that, and then I mean, we would watch cooking shows together, and then my second love was the ocean. I have no idea. Well, I think for the ocean, for me, it was, I'm very high strung. I was born that way, I think. And the ocean just always provided a little bit of that sense of calm for me. And I kind of took it to the extreme. I remember, I used to have a bunch of aquariums and things like that. I absolutely loved that. I even started to work as a kid inside an aquarium shop, just to be closer, just to be feel like I'm one step closer to the ocean. And I had a bunch of saltwater aquariums in the house, but I found that it lowered my strung, if you will.
Okay.
So it provided me with solace. You know, our upbringing was such, you know, we didn't grow up wealthy. We just grew up. Our neighborhood at the time, if I look back on it, I would say that I wouldn't want to raise my son there. But at that time, how we grew up, it was fine and dandy to me, walking across the street at 8:30 p.m. and go get a jug of milk or something like that. But yeah, those are my two passions. And then of course, that's why people ask all the time, do you fish freshwater? No, I don't. I don't have any. There's nothing wrong with it, and I have nothing against it. But that's where my inner compass has always pointed me, the direction towards the ocean.
Fantastic. What was it, or who was it, that was your introduction to fishing as a young man?
Let's see. I'd have to say, honestly, I don't know if it was anybody that introduced us to it. It was just one of those things where my brother and I, we went onto the Santa Monica Pier as kids, and we would see guys with rods and reels out there We didn't know what they were catching, and I don't think we once in a while we would see a catch of something, but we were just kids. We didn't know what species it was, and it always kind of, it was a draw to us. We wanted to give it a try, and so we ended up doing that. We started our fishing careers on the pier, and we were catching smelt. And then when the Sargo were moving in Santa Monica Pier, we thought we were in heaven there. And so then we figured out that there was so we would have to walk about a block, but there was I believe I, it's the number 4 bus on Santa Monica Boulevard that we would get on, and it would drop us off right at the pier, and we'd have 2-piece rods that we could fit, that we'd break down, and we would fit them in our backpacks. And then we would head to the pier, and we would go and catch whatever. We were just happy. What do they say? The tug is the drug.
Exactly.
We were just happy with whatever it was that bit. So yeah, I think it was self-generated. My brother and I, maybe we inspired each other to want to fish, and to want to keep going, and wanting to learn. Yeah, we had this. Those were the times of my life. I'm fishing with him, and still do it to this day, but not in the same frequency as we did when we were younger.
I know that you and I have spoken about how your love of fishing transferred to some employment for you later on down
Yeah.
the line and working in the fishing industry.
Yeah, yeah. I have always been smitten by technology. I'm a geek when it comes to the fishing side. Anyway, you remember Offshore Angler Johnny Moore's catalogs?
Absolutely.
I used to call in. No internet, right? So you used to call in to get a subscription to get that catalog. So I would call in to get that catalog. Get the Bass Pro Shops catalog. I'd get the Cabela's one. There was another one back in that time too. I forget what they were. It was. I remember seeing it on Dan Hernandez. But anyway, we would get all those catalogs, and rather than reading comic books or anything like that, I mean, and then don't let our grandmother know, but rather than even reading school books, sometimes we were reading Offshore Angler and Bass Pro Shops magazines, getting the specs. I don't know what it was, but like specs on rods and reels, it always was an interest to me. And I would just, that's what I would go off of. I'd read every single one of them, and then I'd start to wonder, how come I don't see any fin nor reels out here? Well, I think that's because those catalogs catered a lot to the East Coast guys, but still, I would read every single spec. I would read everything. I knew line capacities. In that time, no braided line, it was just all mono, so I knew the capacities off the top of my head. Somebody asked me what an international 30W held, and I could tell you. But that's kind of from there. I don't know. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life, but I just knew that I loved fishing, and I loved fishing tackle. I loved tinkering with fishing tackle. And I learned how to build rods and a number of different things, and I enjoyed it. So I figured maybe it'd be worth it to take a look at to see if there was an opportunity in the industry somewhere. I worked inside of retail for a little bit, kind of the mom and pop stores, and I would work really for tackle, or I would work for fishing trips, and then. When I was 18, I guess into the real world anyway, was when I went to work for Turner's Outdoorsman, and from there was a distributor that was calling on us, and we were one of their largest customers, called Western Hoagie. And they had a position open. It was for a sales assistant, whatever that meant, but I just knew I wanted it. And I looked at the qualifications. I thought, hey, I got this. I could do this. But one of the things that I ran into was they didn't want to steal. They didn't want to be known as the company that steals Turner's employees. So I remember talking to the HR. Her name is Gloria Perry. I still remember, as the time of my life. I talked to her and I said, look, if I quit Turner's and stayed unemployed for a while, would you hire me? I mean, I'm willing to take that gamble. And she said yes. And she was a woman of her word. And so 2 months later, I went to work for the distributor, and That's where I learned a lot. I did not know anything about computers. I didn't know Microsoft, anything like that. And there was a gentleman in there named Ross Johns, who I still keep in contact with, once in a while. And he helped me with all of it. He showed me how to use Microsoft Excel, Word, and then a lot of people showed me how to write letters to buyers and emails and things like that. And away we went. So that was the
Wow.
start.
So you've worked for a few of the better known companies, Shimano.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. When the distributor, they decided that they were going to close their doors, or I'm sorry, they decided that the owners wanted to retire. Now, Western Hoagie Company has been around for quite some time, and they didn't have an heir, and it's been in the family forever. I think it was like 100-year-old company, and so they sold to another company, and I wasn't part of the forward movement. And so I was looking for something, and there was do you remember the Penn Baja special?
Absolutely.
Okay, when that thing first came out in its infancy, or in its prototype stage anyway, it was brought over to us, and they knew that I fished a lot, and so they brought it over to me, and just to look at, not for anything else, just to look at it, because they figured, we'll throw a bone to the young kid here. But when I was playing with it, I thought to myself, and I said it to the Penn folks at Penn. I says, "Man, this isn't just another senator." And then a couple months later, when that reel was introduced, that very line was in the ad, and I got my own my Baja special from them for coming up with that line. So not just another senator.
Wow.
But I went from there. I worked for Penn for just a little bit, but yeah, I have been in the industry. It was the most fun 23 years that a guy could have asked for. I worked with Shimano, with Okuma, Mustad hooks. There's a number of companies in the business that I was working in a sales and marketing capacity.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we just recently had the PCS show in March here at the Orange County
Yeah.
Fairgrounds.
What a show!
Fantastic
What
show.
a show!
And it's grown every
Yeah.
year, getting better. I looked up their list of speakers, and they had a whole page with everybody's picture, and I found you on there, and they listed you as a jigging expert.
Oh,
So let's talk a little bit more about the jigging world.
okay.
So when were you first made aware, or when did you become aware of jigging here in the United States?
Well, let me just clarify. I always tell people I'm not an expert. I'm just experienced, which means I'm old. But so I started working with Shimano in the winter of 2004. By summer of 2005, we were promoting and marketing vertical jigging. It was called the butterfly system. I believe now. I always tell people we didn't invent it. There is no. It's been around for a long time, but we were, I think, the first company to heavily market, promote, and really put things together out west here with vertical jigging with that entire system. So it goes back to summer of 2005. I was doing this. Now we used to we did dealer events where we would take our dealers over to Key West, Florida, fishing the wrecks and things like that for amberjack and whatever else wants to bite them. And they would get a taste of the vertical jigging for that. But what we found was the application out here. We did find an application for it out here during that time anyway. Now, obviously, we didn't have the bluefin biting at night, or we didn't have that type of bluefin fishery out here. So, but that was summer of 2005. And that was an interesting ride to be a part of that. We did butterfly jigging clinics in every county. The anglers would pay, I think it was like $35 or something like that to get in, but I think they got over $100 worth of goodies because we gave them a pack with jigs and things like that. But we were teaching the system. We were teaching the system and the actual the rigging, the entire thing. I still remember the look on dealers' faces when we were talking about the hooks on top only. You know, we're out of the West, right? We got jigs with a welded ring and a hook on the bottom only. And then when we were telling them about how, you know, predatory game fish attack their prey, it's usually head first, and they, you know, that was a tough one. And then the rods, they're real skinny. You know, we are the rods that we know out here on the West Coast. You know, you've got CalStar, you've got Seeker, and so on, and those types of brands. And when you take a look at the Travala rods that we had during that time, they were thin, and guys look at them and, you know, calling them, they look like bass rods. The palming trigger reel seats were, or I'm sorry, the reel seats, we use the trigger reel seats that you get commonly associated with calico bass rods. And then here we are telling guys that, hey, you can fish really heavy on these things. You know, the line rating was done in braid, and people didn't get, you know, it was hard. It was a little bit harder for folks to understand, which is why, you know, we did the clinics, or the clinics that we did. But we just we didn't we had success with it, and it carried over. It never went away. It wasn't as, I guess, highlighted at that time as it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But they still did plenty of it back east, and there were still guys out west here that were doing it. I know I caught a ton of yellowtail on that. I mean, a ton of them. Fishing Catalina, fishing Clemente, on the original butterfly jig, on the original butterfly system, and a couple of guys still remember the music that would play on the video loop that we would provide all of our dealers, and it would just keep playing and playing and playing. But that was really fun, and yeah, 2005, Walt.
Okay. So you've been jigging for quite a while, and I know that you've got an immense background in other techniques and styles of fishing.
Yeah.
What was it about jigging that appealed to you so much?
Well, I have never been fond of dropper loop fishing. Not that there's nothing wrong with it. It just never excited me, the bait and weight. And it brought another dimension to that. You know, if the trip that you were on required dropper loop fishing, it brought another dimension to it. And that dimension, in my opinion, is called fun. So you get to go, instead of the bait and wait and just hanging out, you're actually proactively doing things, and that's part of the reason. And then it was effective. It was very effective. We caught what you're seeing now. We caught yellows on it. We caught sea bass. We caught rockfish on it. We caught sand bass and things like that. But just that we didn't have the bluefin at that time. And it was a lot of fun. You know, I would never go on record in saying, like, it is not the end all be all, but, you know, if you want to add an element of fun to something, and I think that's what keeps things interesting, right? It's same in life, same in relationships, right?
Exactly.
You got to keep things fun, and you got to keep things fresh. So that's what the vertical jigging was able to do, for me anyway. Now, the tackle back then, I mean, it was the best that we had available at that time, but compared to now, it's incredible now.
Oh, it's amazing,
Yeah.
the rods, the reels, and all the jigs that are now available on the market, and so many people that are so good at it.
Yeah.
Let's take a little bit of a dive there then. You like jigging. I know I first found out about it by watching your interview on Freedman Adventures.
Oh, okay.
And the aspect of it that got my attention, you were talking about how jigging was not as hard on your back if you fished with the techniques that you were showing in the interview.
Yeah.
And I've got a back injury, so when somebody was talking about, hey, here's a technique of fishing, and it's going to be easier on your body, that was what caught my attention.
Yeah.
Talk about that aspect of jigging.
I think in the seminar that I do, it's one of the workshops that I offer. I call it the science and mechanics of efficient fish fighting. We actually, this doesn't just apply to jigging rods, what I teach in there, but number one is body mechanics and body alignment. That is going to be critical regardless of what rod and reel you're using, regardless of the technique. But even more so, I would say, on the jigging rods, because what happens on those rods is that they don't have they don't have, the industry term is recoil, and what that means is that as the rod bends, it wants to straighten itself out. Okay, so they don't have that in them, and if they do, it's very little. So if I like to tell people that if you're gonna hold the rod up at a 45-degree angle and you wait for the rod tip to come up, you'll probably be waiting a long time for it to come up. But it's understanding. I say on the jigging rods in my seminars, I says we don't lift them up, we leverage them in, and there is a way to apply maximum pressure on the fish. Because that's the key thing here. See, it's not, guys, we all now, everybody is using a spring scale, and they're checking their drags, and they've got 25, 30 pounds of drag that the scale screams out. But the most important is what the fish feels at their end, at the hook. And so there are certain dynamics that will either maintain a consistent amount of pressure that the fish feels at the hook, which is what is going to be one of the key things to wearing them out. And then there are few dynamics that, believe it or not, reduce the amount of pressure at the hook that the fish feels. So inside of that seminar, we go in depth on that. But as you can see, I think number one is the fact that the rods and reels are super light in weight, and when once we show people how to fight them by, we change the angle of the rod, so we change the angle of which we bring them in, and so, but yeah, that's it, without having a rod and reel over here and pulling at it and doing all that, but that's it in a nutshell.
And that's exactly what I saw in the interview you were doing on Friedman Adventures, and it was a paradigm shift for me. I've always been accustomed to using a heavy rail rod, as you said, leaning into it at a 45-degree angle. But when you have back problems, you can only do that for so long before you're worn out. And I got to admit, when I first applied your techniques of point and pull, I had deckhands coming up to me and saying, "What are you doing? Stop." And I'm like, "No, it's okay, buddy. I think we're good here." And
I use this a lot in my seminar to, because the question is that if you would, I actually do the math now. I'm actually up there when I do the seminar. I look like Vanna White. I've got Post-its. I write. I look like a game show host. I'm running around tacking up Post-its and asking people if they see it. But what I do now is I actually will show people with a drag scale. I will bring rod and reel up, and I will show them at various angles of that rod the effect that line stretch and rod bending has on drag pressure felt at the hook. And people are shocked sometimes at how much it swings from each different angle. And so, one of the things I say when we talk about to simplify it, one could say point and pull. But there's definitely more to it. But here's what I will say. Somebody will tell me that, well, gee, you know what, that pointing, there's not enough drag. You got to put a big bend in the rod to get the pressure on that fish. Well, here's what, then I ask them, I say, okay, how many of you guys how many of you guys fish rockfish? And everybody raises their hand. And I say, well, how many of you have ever got stuck on the bottom? And everybody raises their hand. So now I say, okay, so I said a crewman will come up usually, and you ask for help to get out of the tangle, or I get out of the rock, and they'll come up and they'll bounce the rod a little bit. It's really just to entertain you, really, is what I like to say, because if it's in there, it's in there. And then once they realize that it's not going to come out after a few sessions of trying to jar that thing out, what do? They hammer down on the drag and they point the rod at the rock and they pull and break. There is a reason for that. It's because the amount of drag pressure, they understand that if you have the rod coming into play, or at least I don't know if they understand that, but if you have the rod coming into play, you will never be able to break that line off, because the rod absorbs a good amount of the pressure at the hook. When now you're trying to break it off, you've got to point it down and pull, and then it breaks off.
Fantastic. So obviously the way I got to know about you and your seminars was by watching you on Friedman Adventures. You've been doing this for quite a while, giving back to the fishing community.
I have.
What What's the impetus? What was the motivation for you to want to be able to give your knowledge to so many people and make them better anglers?
For one, is I love sport fishing. I love the industry, and I love the people in it. And I consider myself a sport fishing promoter. As you know, Walt, I don't have what I do. I don't have any sponsors. And yeah, we got the bell there, but I don't have any sponsors. I'm not pro staff for anyone, and it really is by choice and by design, because everything that you see me demo, I bought. And and because of that, I enjoy it when people want to go, and I enjoy it when when they're successful and they have a good time. Everybody wants to catch fish, for sure. But I'm interested in motivating them into practicing and learning. You know, it's called sport fishing, right? And it's the one thing that not a lot of people practice. You know, so I get a kick out of it. It's I don't gain anything from it, as far as from money wise. I love to help people, and it's probably what I was put on this earth to do. I enjoy it very much, and I like hearing when you tell me that, you know, whatever it is that my babbling has helped you in one way, shape, or form, or anybody comes up to me. I like walking around the shows and guys go, "Hey man, you're that cigar fishing Medicare guy, aren't you?" And I says, "Yes, I am." And I said, "Hey, we watched your one video, man. It was much appreciated, because it really helped us understand. You know, that last one that I did, the popper, I call it Operation Offshore Topwater. I did that Instagram live webinar 2 nights ago, and we had a massive turnout, and it's still right now. I dare I say, I'm going to use a term here that I don't yet understand, but it went viral just a little bit here. People are sharing it, and I hope that it gives people an opportunity to want to go out there and use what they have. I meant what I said in that seminar. It's just like jigs. Go to the PCS show, for example, and you see the big signs: buy 3 poppers, get 1 free, buy 3 jigs, get 1 free. Well, I'd love to motivate you and help you build your confidence to go out there and actually use them. Use them on the gear that you have. You don't have to buy the fancy stuff. Not to say that the fancy stuff doesn't work. And yes, there's always the question between there's the Indian or the arrow. But that's I get a kick out of promoting sport fishing, this beautiful sport that I absolutely love, and I want to help people have a lot more fun with it. And I'd love for them to be confident with the equipment that they have. Now, whether or not they are buying new or they already own it, let's go. So that's why we do what we do.
I've attended a couple of your seminars,
Mhm.
and it's been at we've done it at fish clubs, trade shows.
Uh-huh.
How many different venues is your message getting out to in a
You
year?
know, one thing that's really cool. I was talking to Benny Seacrest from Accurate at the Hall show, and he said something to me. He says, "You know, what's cool about what you're doing, Brian, is that you don't have a gajillion followers, but," he says, "the ones that you do, you inspire them, and you're almost very important to their fishing." And I said, "You know what? Then I've done my job. I'm not Mr. Social out there. I don't need to have 5,000 contacts on my phone. I just want to be able to know that I made a difference, and it makes me feel good." So as far as like where, you know, I love talking to fishing clubs. They're really cool, fun people.
Exactly.
I do the trade shows whenever, if ever there's an opportunity. I enjoy that very much. As you've been to the seminars. I've done Let's Talk Hookup. We have a lot of fun on there. Friedman Adventures. You know, I'll never forget what Phil Friedman did for me. You know, when I first created this alter ego of the Cigar Aficionado, he gave me a chance. He let me come out and tell my story about why I do what I do. You know, for 23 years, anglers such as yourselves and the people who are going to see this, they're the reason that I was able to make a living doing exactly what I love, and to be able to give back to the community now in a different way. Of course, you know, I'm not pushing tackle anymore on them. What I am doing is I hope that I am pushing inspiration and motivation to them.
You mentioned your alter ego, the
Yeah,
Cigar Aficionado.
yeah.
Where did that come from?
I am obsessed with cigars. It is really bad. It's just about as bad as my obsession as a kid when I was on fishing gear. I want to. I've done so much homework. I pay attention. It gets down to the leaves of these things. I've been obsessed with them for a long time, and I've enjoyed them for quite some time. And I collect them as well. And I just wanted to do. I wanted to do something different. I have my full-time job, what I do in the Medicare sector. Then I wanted to just I'm not you. If I was to go to a golf game, for example, a golf tournament,
Mhm.
the joke that I like to make is you'll find me on the ninth hole smoking a cigar. I know nothing about golf, so I'd be lying, right? But fishing, I know the fishing industry, I know, and I talk fishing. I talk sport fishing. So I was, our best thoughts come when we're sitting on a can, right? I'm sitting there reading Cigar Aficionado magazine, and I am thinking to myself, you know what? It got to be something. You got to do something here to branch out and get your name out there, and to let people know that somebody's here to help them, and thus the Cigar Aficionado was born.
Well, I'll
And
tell you, it's definitely a moniker and an image and brand that you've created that
yeah,
so many people identify
yeah,
with. And
I got lucky. I have we did. People are asking if I sell apparel because they see my shirt that are embroidered. No, guys, I don't. I actually go and seek embroiderers who are willing to do one jacket at a time, and that's not easy.
no, it's not.
But I do this really because I love helping anglers, and I love meeting new people. And I just want to know that I'm making a difference for them, and I'm glad that to some I have. So that's the Cigar Aficionado. That's the story of how it came up. Sitting on the can, reading Cigar Aficionado magazine,
Okay.
and obsessing over cigars. Even I even tricked my wife into going to Nicaragua for our honeymoon, really because I wanted to go see the tobacco farms and such. But yeah, I got to tell you,
Wow.
I'll tell you right now, Nicaragua, you don't pass up the opportunity to go. It is what Costa Rica should be as far as money wise,
Hmm.
and it is everything that Costa Rica is.
That's
So
phenomenal.
yeah.
Tell us, where can people find information on the seminars and the education that you're providing for the fishing
Yeah,
community?
I am. You can. I'm on social media. That's where I do most of my work on Instagram. So they can find me at the underscore cigar underscore aficionado. So that's Afisinado. And I do. That's where I post a lot of what's going on. And for example, like this month is a busy one, and even leading into the beginning of next month. I did the webinar a couple nights ago. We had the club meetings at LA Rod and Reel Club. We had the club meetings at Ventura County Sport Fishing Club, and then on April 26th, I don't know when this video is coming out, but I'm doing a casting clinic at the tackle meet event that's being held in Ontario, where myself and Joel Shimizu of Taddy Lures, it's at a golf course lake deal in Ontario. We're going to have 25 people, if they're interested, 25 people show up with their favorite 25 and 30-pound outfits. And we're going to work with them individually to help them up their game in casting, because that is very, very important. There's I stole the quote from the movie Dodgeball. You ever seen that?
Yes,
It goes, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Well,
exactly.
if you can cast proficiently, you can fish anywhere in the world. And so casting is a is it's the fundamental skill. And this is the quote a good friend of mine, Pete Haynes. It is the fundamental skill that the 10% of anglers who catch 90% of the fish possess.
So true. Couldn't have
Yeah,
said it better.
yeah. So that's kind of that you can do that. Follow me on Instagram and take a look and see what it is, where I'll be next. I got one in May 1st down at the San Diego Rod and Reel Club. That's one of the popular ones. the essentials of building a vertical jigging system for tuna.
And I've been to that
Yeah.
clinic and I know how much value I got out of it. So we're going to post a link below the video here to Brian's Instagram page. Please go to that page if you have any interest in wanting to become a better angler. Brian does this for free. He's not
Yeah.
getting anything for it other than, as he said, the satisfaction of knowing that the anglers he's
Yeah.
talking to have a better shot of catching fish, not just fishing, but catching.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And we cover a wide variety of topics. You know, it's not just we talk about fly lining or you know, everybody is putting it off right now. They're not thinking that it's real, but the anchovy is real. And I was telling you the story. You know, there's some people that they'll see me and they'll go they'll think, you know, I'm super young. That's just letting everyone know the secret here is red wine and CBD oil. But I was when I grew up, we didn't know. I didn't know what a sardine was. And then I remember I was telling you the story. The first time my brother and I laid eyes on a sardine, it was at Dana Wolf Sport Fishing on the Clemente. They were talking about fishing 3.0 and 4.0 hooks. I think the biggest hooks that we had in our box were number 1. So so when they came on the scene, things definitely got interesting. But we were, you know, we've been doing this a while, and I absolutely enjoy it. I like going back in time just as much as the next person. But I understand what is happening, and I keep up with what the modern trends are as well, and I pay close attention to what the angling world is in need of, or wants to know more about, and I want to provide that type of information to everyone. So whether it's popper fishing, which was, like I said, it's recorded on my Instagram, and people can go back and listen to it. But you know, there's popper fishing, live bait, jigging. I did one. I call it sunrise to sunset, proactive yo-yo jig fishing for bluefin. And lest we forget that before, you know, the vertical jigging kind of came on, yo-yo jigs work just fine, and they will continue to work just fine for them. And what's nice about that is that everybody owns them.
yes.
Right. So kind of apply that and teach people how to do that.
And you teach people all different aspects of fishing.
Yeah.
And I know from my perspective, if I just went out on a 3/4 day, day and a half, or whatever, and if I just focused on one style of fishing, you kind of get tired of it after a while.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have a different grouping of rods, whether you have a rail rod,
Yeah.
speed jigging rod, a slow pitch rod, and then different points of the day, you're like, all right, this isn't catching, let's switch to something else.
Yeah. Like, you know, I say I'm not good at any one thing. I'm okay at a lot of different things. I love fishing the surface iron, for example, and that's a SoCal thing for sure. But I love doing that, and I mean, I understand. You know, this is another one where everybody has them, surface iron, right? You go into a basement, you see a bunch of them, but I would like to get people to understand how the most powerful tool is knowledge, and then of course applying that knowledge makes it even better. And I'd love to. I like to show people that everything is cool, everything is groovy when it's wide open, right? But when it's not, now what are you going to do? What type of adjustments are you going to make? And do you know that you can make adjustments? What happens, for example, on surface iron fishing if the yellows keep chasing your jig, but they won't commit? What do you do? Right? So there's all these little things that I like to be able to help anglers to understand, so that maybe they don't have to go through the same frustrations I did when I was younger, because this is what fueled it, right? I would go fishing. What kept me going was I was pissed off. I was pissed off when we couldn't catch fish, or I would be upset. I would see other guys catching them, and I wouldn't be catching them, and I wonder why. You know, I was raised to question everything, and I go out, and there's a guy. He just it's almost he can't stop getting a bite. I'm wondering what the heck is going on here, and so it drove me to I would pause sometimes, and I'd watch and I'd pay attention. Are you hooking your baits different? Are you casting? When you cast, why did you decide that this is the time that you'll make your cast? You see, so I paid close attention to that, and I used to be up in wheelhouses and chatting with deckhands all the time, just to ask for info, and I craved it, and they're telling me that hey, this color's been working for whatever reason in this type of jig. Well, then guess what? I go out of the store like everybody else, buy 6 of them, and hopefully, and then the next trip they're on something completely different. But that's kind of the drive that I've always had growing up, and I always wanted to be, every trip I wanted to be a better version of myself than I was the last trip, and
I
just
can
kind of,
identify with
yeah,
that. Totally. And I can identify, unfortunately, with putting out the good dollars for a day trip
uh-huh,
or a multi-day trip and coming home empty-handed, and
yeah,
how frustrating that is. And you're right. It is a motivating
hmm,
factor that will get you to want to be better.
yeah,
I don't want to repeat this again.
hmm,
What can I do to ensure that I don't
right,
repeat this?
right,
So I
yeah,
can identify with that fully. So,
yeah.
well, Brian, I cannot thank you enough for being our first guest today. We're going to hopefully broaden and expand this podcast to be able to give more exposure to people and businesses that are making a positive difference, such as you are
Thank
in the
you.
fishing industry, and make it, as you said, more fun. Because that's what it all ends up coming down to.
Yeah,
When you're catching, you're having fun. And again, thank you so much.
I
It's
appreciate
been
it,
an
Walt.
absolute pleasure.
Great time.
And let's do this again.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
All right. I want to thank you for being here today on the first episode of the Big Nasty Show. We want to give a huge shout out and thanks to the city of Rancho Santa Margarita, and specifically the staff here at Rancho Santa Margarita Lake. Pat White, I want to thank you and your staff. You've made us feel very welcome here. I also want to thank our sponsor, Sammy Lamb Bakery. Karen, thank you so much, sweetheart. We appreciate you providing gifts. We want to continue this going forward. We want to make your business blow up as well. Stay tuned for our upcoming episodes. We're going to have another one drop here in a few weeks. Thanks for being here today. Have a great weekend.